Welcome back to the Chaos and Carry-Ons podcast.
With Stephanie.
And Shelby.
Chaos and carry-ons, let's go. Disney dreams in tow, Every flight and every ride. Join the journey, come inside.
So today we're going to talk about the best trip we ever took.
So far.
That's true. This is going to be probably a series because there's no way that we could talk about everything that we did without this being probably 3 hours long.
Well, there's no probably about it. It's definitely going to be more than one episode. We just don't know how many, and we don't know how we're going to cut them. But today, we're just going to talk about the flights, the jet lag, first impression overall. Um, did we even say by now what we're talking about? I don't think so.
No, no, we're talking about when we went to Hawaii.
I've had so many people ask me so many questions about our trip.
Now, let's start off with saying when we first started saying that we were going to Hawaii, I don't know about you, but I got some very mixed reviews about the jet lag. It seems like people either do great or they do awful. There's no in between.
Yeah, and people that I had told, I don't know a ton of people that had been there before. I mean, it's not something that like every single person does in their lifetime. So not very many people I knew had been, but the ones that had, when I told them that we were going to take the kids and specifically like Mateo being, he was 2, right? I think
Yeah, he was
Taylor
too.
was, she was, she had
She
just
was
turned
5.
5. Yeah, she
Yeah.
just turned 5. And everybody was like, oh, like you're so brave to do that. So I was worried.
Yeah, I was too. But
Um,
it wasn't keeping us from booking the trip and going.
no, not at all. No, it
No.
was just kind of that, like, we'll deal with that when we get there. I mean,
Yeah.
and we did, I feel like you definitely had people like trying to almost talk you out of it.
Oh, definitely, for
Basically, like
sure.
you're
Hmm.
crazy for doing this. But
Yeah.
so we planned this trip. I think we said this in one of our other episodes. Like we planned it for 18 months plus before we went, which
Hmm.
some of the stuff you have to. Like the further out you book your flights, the better deal you're going to get most of the time. Same with resort. Like it's only going to get more expensive the closer you wait. So we kind of had to have a general idea
Hmm.
um, beforehand. Now, originally, we were planning to go in February for my
Hmm.
birthday. We were going to be there, like, I was going to turn 30 in Hawaii. And I don't remember what happened, like, why we ended up pushing it, but we decided to go in May, like the second week in May, I think.
Hmm.
And I don't remember the reason why we pushed it, but I have zero regrets for doing that because the weather was phenomenal.
It was something about Jordan's work schedule, and then um like Sophia had a sports thing going on that was going
That's right.
to, yeah, she had like a meet that was going to be making it where I couldn't spend as many days, and then Jordan was going to have to come home earlier. It was something like that.
Yes, you're right. So we went in May, and I think so. We fly Southwest typically. We have Southwest credit cards, and we use them to rack up points and use those points to pay for flights. And they do, like, occasionally we get emails where if you spend X amount of money before a certain day, they give you like 100,000 bonus points or whatever the case may be. So we had hoarded points because we knew Southwest had just started flying to Hawaii maybe the year before we went, or it might have even been the year that we went.
It was the year
Um,
you went.
okay. So we knew we were going to use those points for that. So we hoarded them, and I did not pay for any of our flights. Jordan, Taylor, me, there and back. I didn't pay anything because I had enough points to cover it. So that was a huge relief because the flights to Hawaii are not cheap
No,
at
but
all.
we got them pretty cheap, and I'll talk about that.
Yeah. So Stephanie they paid for their flights. We did
Yes.
points. My mom went with us and she paid for hers and she flew with us on Southwest. And I want to say hers for one adult round trip, I want to say it was around $700, give or take. It might have been a little less, it might have been a little more. I can't remember. I don't know. I feel like it was around 700.
Yeah, that's probably right because when I priced Southwest, I'm pretty sure it was between $700 and $800.
Okay.
And I was pricing, I mean, you booked it like the day it came out.
Yes.
I did not do it that way.
So the point I've noticed, because we do travel a lot and we fly Southwest a lot, when Southwest opens up their flights, if you're going to book with points, I feel like the day that it comes out, or maybe even the week that it opens, that's that's when you're going to get the lowest point wise. Now, I don't know about cash because I do feel like, you're able to snag deals and stuff, but I feel like it only goes up if you're using points.
Yeah. So, okay. The reason why that I did not do Southwest, I'm just going to be honest. We had three kids and two of them were over the age of 7. I did not want to deal with taking that very long flight and risking us not being put together. So that was part of it going into it. But then when I really started to do research, I realized that I could get a cheaper flight. So we ended up we went from Nashville to LAX, and that was an $89 flight on American. And we stayed overnight in a hotel that was right next to the airport. And then the flight from LAX to Honolulu was 129. So it really was not that bad at all. I mean,
Mhm.
you even think of the hotel, I think was maybe around $150, maybe 100, I think it was like 120, and then they added like some taxes and fees and whatnot. But still, I didn't feel like that was bad at all for a flight
No,
to Hawaii.
no, not at all. Um, so we booked there were no nonstop flights from Nashville. So we booked um on the way there, we had a layover in Vegas. So we left Nashville. We got the earliest flight of the day, and I want to say it was like around 5 a.m., 5:10, 5:30, I don't remember. And we landed in Vegas. So all automatically from Nashville to Vegas, we've already lost 2 hours, I believe. I believe they're 2 hours behind us. So when we land there, it's like breakfast time, but we're ready to eat lunch. So we get off the plane. Our layover was only maybe an hour. So we had enough time to stretch our legs, use the bathroom, get some food, and go to the plane for the next flight. And then from Vegas to Honolulu, it was basically halfway. I think it was 10 hours total, but without the layover. I mean, flight time was about 10 hours. And so Vegas was pretty much right in the middle. I think it was like 4 hours and then five or something like that. I don't remember. So we did not stay overnight or anything. We hit it. We did all in one trip. So we land in Honolulu, and at this point, it had been maybe 12 hours since we left Nashville, but we landed in Hawaii and it was noon. And it felt so weird because like at home, it's dinner time. We would have been like, eating dinner, going to bed, but
Hmm.
there it's just lunchtime. So
Okay,
that
wait.
was
Tell
very weird.
everybody where that you had your first dinner. Of course you went all the way to Hawaii. And
Yes,
where did and she called me and she said, "You'll never guess where I am." And the first thing I said was Olive Garden.
which it was
She
not
said
Olive
close.
Garden. It wasn't, but okay. So I'll get to that. So we land in Honolulu. The airport there is very, very weird. It's not like any airport that I've seen like mainland. I don't know. Maybe that's common other places. I don't know. It was weird. It was very like run down. Um, I mean, I've flown in and out of New York, and that one is probably the worst airport I've ever been in, LaGuardia. But Honolulu it's on the same, it's getting there. It
I
just
didn't
felt
think it was that. I didn't think it was as bad as what she's saying. I'm going to put that out there. It wasn't fancy, It wasn't Nashville, but
And maybe
it was
that's why I
not.
feel that way because
Yeah.
we live close to Nashville. We fly out of Nashville for every trip that we take. So maybe that had part of the opinion that I have on there. But I just was very surprised at how, I don't know, I just had Hawaii in my mind built up on this large pedestal. So we get off the flight, we're walking through the airport. I mean, it wasn't like the worst airport I've ever been in, but it just wasn't what I expected. So we get our rental car and we did Enterprise, we did the express pickup. We had our rental car. We were in the car heading to the resort or to the hotel within 30 minutes maybe total. And
Hmm.
so we get in the car and we're going down the interstate and I remember calling you from the car because I was
Hmm.
like, this is not what I expected. Hawaii is not like, I don't know. I had this vision of Hawaii in my mind and it was not that. And
Yeah, you thought it was like you're gonna walk down this like staircase off of the plane and it's gonna be like, I don't know, like she was on a remote island.
yeah,
That's what you were describing when you called me.
yes. So, I mean, I guess I just had like Bali or Fiji in my mind. I don't know.
Well, you have to
Like
also think this is a city that you're flying into. Like
it is.
Honolulu is a city.
It is. And I didn't expect that. So I was freaking out because I'm like, we've paid a lot of money to get here and to stay. We're going to be here for like 12 days. What have we done? And so our hotel, the first night we didn't go to Disney's resort yet. We stayed, I don't remember what it was, but it was close. It was in that area, but it wasn't Alani. So we remember at this point we're like 13 hours into our travel day and it's lunchtime in Hawaii. So we're ready to go to bed, but everybody's just getting their day started pretty much. So we go to the hotel and we're just like trying to find food somewhere nearby so we can just eat and go to bed. And we're trying to stay awake as late as possible to get acclimated as quick as we can.
Hmm.
But it was hard. It was really hard. When you're traveling for that long, even flying, it's exhausting.
It really
Um,
is. The jet
I
lag
mean,
is real.
it really is. So we ended up at the Cheesecake Factory, which, like she said,
That's Alabama fancy right there, though.
you go all the way to Hawaii and your first meal is at the Cheesecake Factory. But it was right beside our hotel. We drove there, but we could have walked. I mean, it was in the same plaza as the hotel. Um, so we ate and went to the hotel and we're like getting showers, putting on pajamas, and at this point it's like maybe 2:30 and we're trying to push, but we are so tired. So I took with me Tylenol PM. I knew that I was going to need it, but my mom did not take any. I can't remember if Jordan did or not. Taylor slept most of the way on the flight, so she was fine, but she was tired. So we all go to bed. I want to say it was like maybe 5. I think we made it till about 5. And I'm just like, let's just go to bed. And if we get up at 4 a.m., we get up at 4 a.m., whatever. So I took the Tylenol PM and I slept fine. I was asleep. I think we ended up getting up around 6 a.m. the next day, which bear in mind that's like 11 at home, 11 or noon. Um, my mom was up posting on Facebook and Instagram at like 2 a.m. She couldn't
Yeah, I
sleep.
remember seeing that. Yeah.
She's up and so it was hard on her. And I think after that night she did take Tylenol PM too. Um, but that first full day I felt very rested and just ready to go. And
Yeah.
and so I took Tylenol PM the first night when we got there and then I think that next day I did and I didn't need it again after that. We got adjusted to the time so quickly. Taylor did too. She was fine. As a 5 year
Yeah.
old, it was totally fine. And I didn't give her anything to sleep melatonin or anything, and
Yeah.
she was fine. I mean, we are early risers anyways, so getting up at 6 or 7 o'clock is not super early that's normal.
Yeah.
Um, so it wasn't anything awful, but most of the stuff in Hawaii, the breakfast places didn't open until like 8-ish. So there were days where we were up at 6 and we just had to wait. Anyway, so that was our travel there and how quickly we acclimated. I would say it took us basically our first full day there, we were fine. We were on the time zone. It was fine.
Yeah. Well, I'm very disappointed that you did not tell the airplane story of your mom. Um,
I will.
second,
She doesn't want me to, but I will. It'll come someday. I'll tell the story.
well, because when she called and told me that story from, that's why she called to tell me that story from the, where was it? The Cheesecake Factory. I was crying, and still, whenever I think about it, it makes me laugh. That's like one of those when you're having a bad day. But we, so our flight leaving LAX was at 8 in the morning, which they're 2 hours behind us. So that was really like a 10 flight. Yeah. So it didn't feel like we had to wake up super early to be there because they were 2 hours behind us. Um, I was thinking that we landed around noon Hawaii time, but okay, let's also talk about this. Like, people think that you're going to be terrified on the flight because you're going to be over the water. It did not bother me at all. Like, not at all. I was not impacted by it. Nobody was. Even Derek kind of thought maybe he would have a little bit of anxiety about it, but I think we were so excited to get there. I will say that Derek went to sleep, Mateo went to sleep. Um, Sophia, I think, was a little bit, she also was kind of nervous, like, I don't want to say nervous, but she has a lot of anxiety when we're traveling. And Harper was out though. So I was like a kid on Christmas, just sitting there looking at everybody. I even got up and like walked the aisle for a little bit. I was feeling way too antsy. I was thinking, how can you guys sleep at a time like this? That's what was going through my mind. It's like Christmas is coming. Like, what is it? Elf? It's like Santa's here.
Yeah.
That's was like my internal of how I was feeling. So when we landed and we got our rental car and everything. Now again, Shelby had, I feel like she talked this down. So I wasn't feeling that like, looking around thinking this isn't what I thought it was, which maybe it's because you said it was like a city. But the thing that I noticed right away was the mountains in off in the distance. I
Hmm.
mean, you could see houses and things on them, but I don't know. There's just something about that. There was definitely that salt air smell was in the air,
Hmm.
like when you came out of the airport. I mean, it was
Yeah.
very strong. Um, and it was warm. So I was already in heaven. And then we drove to Olive Garden, believe it or not. It was actually Sophia's birthday that day. And we have picky eater, Harper. And one thing that I will say is it's hard when you're going somewhere and you don't know where anything is. It was hard for us to even find something that was on the way there because I don't know. There's just this thing about looking at a map, you still can't really tell how far off the highway is this going to be. Is
Hmm.
this is this going to be easy to get to? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we ended up in that little plaza that where there was an Olive Garden. I think it's because we had to go into the Target. And then we headed over to Alani. And okay, when you start getting close to Alani, that's not in Honolulu. It's in what is it called?
It's
Koalina?
Ko'olina. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I don't know. You walk in, the doors are open to, the outside, and it's magical. I'll say that. It's You can't even describe what it feels like. There's that constant breezes blowing. It's right by the water. The Hawaiian
Hmm.
music is playing, and you have that like I've made it moment.
Hmm. Yes. Okay. So back to my fear of Hawaii, like when we got off the plane and I was freaking out because it just did not look like what I envisioned. Once we got to Ko'olina, which is I want to say it's like the southern part of Oahu. It's kind of off on its own. When we got into that side of the island, I called her back and was like, "Okay, never mind what I said. Like this is what I expected." It was
Yeah.
It almost felt like California, like the tall palm trees. You can see the mount, like you said, the mountains off in the distance, but it was more
Hmm.
beachy, but it was like the resort area. So it's like really, really, really nice, like very bougie. And I'm like, okay, this is what I expected out of Hawaii.
Yeah.
It just, you had to drive to get there to that point.
Yes. Yes. So we went to Target, and by the time that all of this, we had done all the things. I think you guys went to dinner pretty early.
Hmm.
I was thinking that we got there and checked in around three something, but you guys were getting ready for dinner. And then we just like got the kids ready, went to the pool, and then they met up with us after
Yes.
we went to the pool. And I remember the first thing Jordan said is, "I'm surprised at how awake you guys look." That was the first thing he said. We were doing like really good. So I think the moral to this story is have three children who don't let you sleep at home, have a 2-year old who had a terrible sleep schedule at the time. You're golden because you can survive off of a little bit of sleep. So it didn't feel like anything abnormal. Derek kept
Well,
saying that like,
you also broke your travel day into two, and we did not.
right, right.
And I think that that's where we went wrong. Now, I'm not going to say that I wouldn't do it again, like one continuous flight. I mean, well, it was two flights, but you know what I mean, in one day. But Jordan has said, and I agree with him, that next time we will not catch the first flight out of Nashville. We maybe would do it however we do our times where we're landing in Hawaii like at bedtime instead of at lunchtime. Like we would do maybe a later travel day so we can land and go straight to bed rather than landing and then you have to go find dinner and so on and so forth. So I
Yeah,
think that is probably the biggest difference in how we felt when we got there versus how you felt when you got there.
yeah. So we went to bed early, but again, like she said, you are tired from traveling.
Hmm.
Let's also say that I don't know if you did, I didn't experience any turbulence on the flight. So if like that's a thing and you're worried about like, flying over the ocean, is it more turbulent? I'm sure it is at different times, more turbulent, but it was a very smooth flight for us.
I don't remember
Um,
any turbulence at all.
that's just one of the questions that people have asked. And I mean, I haven't heard of anybody having, I mean, I'm sure that people have, but I, it wasn't like any different than any other flight that I've taken.
I also I did feel a little bit panicky on Southwest and most airlines may do this, I don't know. They have like where you can track the flight on there. So I could see the little plane and the map of like here's where we're leaving from and here's where we're going. And
Hmm.
once that plane like I was fine when I mean and you can't even see like you're above the clouds. So it's not like I could see
Hmm.
ground. I mean you can sometimes, but once I saw that on the map where we passed California and like the plane is no longer over land but over the water, and I'm looking at it on a map. I'm not seeing it out the window. That's
Yeah.
where I felt like a little panicky. Like, okay,
Yeah.
now we're just over the water. But I mean, it wasn't, I didn't need like any anxiety medication or
Yeah.
anything. I mean,
No Xanax.
no, I mean, I was fine, but I did feel a little panicky. But Taylor had the window seat, so I couldn't see. So that probably helped a lot. But it wasn't, I mean, once I just closed the window and started watching a movie or whatever, I don't remember what I was doing. It was that feeling was gone. I forgot about it very quick. So I will say, like, I did feel a little panicky, but not, I mean, I would do it again.
Well, okay, let me interject there and say that if you ride Southwest, they only have like 737. So we were on an Airbus, and I can't remember like the number of it, but it was a row of it was three seats in the middle, it was four, and then there was three seats. So it was Harper, Sophia, me, and then Mateo was in his car seat, and then Derek, and then there was two people sitting beside him. So it was a very, very large plane where like a
Hmm.
Boeing 737 is three and three.
Hmm.
I did read that a larger plane will cut down on your jet lag. So there's something to be said about that because I feel like overall we probably did, like she said, because we didn't do it all at one time and then we had a larger plane. That probably also was helping us.
Hmm. Yeah.
So, you know,
So my first impression of Alani, which I we've stayed at almost all the Disney resorts. None of the Disney resorts are bad. I mean, even like we joke about all-star movies and like the cheap ones, but they're not bad. I mean, they're better than the Super 8 motel down the
yes.
street.
They're
But
bad if you have three children. Let me just throw that in
well,
there. They're
okay.
little.
So, but like, there's a oh, what's the word? Like a stereotype for Disney
Hmm.
resorts.
Hmm.
And when we pulled up at Alani, I I just felt like I think you said you felt like you made it. Like you're here.
Hmm. Hmm.
It just felt like a movie moment where you pull up and we knew our room wasn't going to be ready. So we dropped our bags and stuff off and had them hold them. And I think this was the day that you guys were flying in. We went and hiked Diamond Head while they
Hmm.
were like our room wasn't ready yet. So we went and did that.
Yeah,
But
because I was not doing that.
we went to drop our bags off because everybody talked about like don't leave anything in your cars because car theft is like I mean there's signs everywhere we went there were signs like hide your
Hmm.
belongings,
Yes.
take them with
Yes.
you. So we were terrified to have 2 weeks worth of all, everything that we had with us to go on that hike. So we took our bags to the hotel first and I walked in and I literally, like, I just looked around. Like you said, the doors are open. So when you walk in the door, you can see straight through the lobby and you can see the ocean. You can see
Hmm.
I mean, you can see so much of the resort just right there from walking in the door. And I literally cried. I had tears.
Was the
I mean,
man was the man playing the ukulele?
yes. So,
Yes, that's like it, that
yes.
just like brings it all together.
Like I said, it's like a movie moment.
Hmm. Hmm. They put the
And
necklaces on you and you're
yes.
like, this is it. I've waited my whole life to experience
Yes,
this.
that's how I felt. And we love Disney resorts. And the Polynesian, up to that point, was I mean, it still is one of my favorites. I'm not going to turn down a trip to the Poly.
Yeah, that's our
But,
favorite still.
but when I walked into Alani, the Polynesian suddenly felt like a small,
Yeah, I
cheap,
would agree with
little,
that. Uh-huh.
pitiful
Yeah.
resort
Yes,
because
yes.
it just I can't even explain it. And I don't think it's because we are like the Disney dorks that look like I think that resort is just it's breathtaking. It's amazing.
It
Um
is.
and Jordan he had been to Hawaii maybe 10, 15 years before. I guess it had been about 15 years. He went with his parents and they stayed at several places on different islands. And he said that resort blew everywhere that they had stayed in Hawaii out of the water. Like and they stayed at 5-star resorts. I mean, they had a really good, nice trip. So it wasn't like they were like cutting corners to go cheaper. And he still said Alani like blew them out of the water. So I mean that I didn't have anything to compare it to because I had never been to Hawaii, but it was just I can't
Yeah.
even describe it. I feel like everybody should go and it's not in your face Disney. You're not walking in and seeing Mickey's everywhere. It's really like a Hawaiian resort with little touches of Disney.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
It's not and I feel like that's something that people think even about like Disney Cruise or it's not all up in your face Disney. You're not being greeted by Mickey Mouse. I mean that would be cool, but it didn't feel like I'm at Disney. It felt like I'm in
Yes.
Hawaii, but there's
Yeah, yeah.
Mickey over there.
Yes.
If I want him, I can go find him.
I'll say that when one of the things that I noticed right away about it was it's not like typical food that you would have at the parks. I felt like the restaurants were a lot better at Alani. Um,
Yes.
I mean, they had like chicken fingers and hamburgers and they had stuff
Hmm.
like that, but I'm saying like in an overall,
Hmm.
it was not like what you would find at even the Polynesian.
No.
It
I
felt more like it was local food.
You can't even compare it. I mean, we did one of the days that we were there, they have a character breakfast and it had who was there? Like Stitch, Chip and Dale, Mickey, Minnie maybe.
Yes.
I don't does that sound
Hmm.
right? And so we
Uh,
booked it.
Mickey was there, but he was outside.
Yes, you're right. Okay. So we
Hmm.
booked that just to do, I mean, we did it for the kids, obviously, But the food at that I would
Yes.
go back just for that. I think we all got something different and we all were like
Hmm.
passing plates around to try
Yes,
everything.
yes. Uh-huh.
And it was so good. I
By
mean,
far the best character breakfast I've ever experienced. Like,
ever. Yes.
by far.
And
It was
I
just amazing.
I was kind of concerned because I mean, it's you're at a Disney resort, you're at a character breakfast. I'm thinking, okay, it's probably going to be like Chef Mickey, at Disney World or something, Ohana, something like that. Which they're not bad, but
Mm-mm.
that's what I expected. But the
Hmm.
price we paid more for that character breakfast than the ones at Walt Disney World, but
Hmm.
it was completely worth it. I mean,
It
and
was.
do you remember the strawberries? I don't know if you remember that or
Yes.
not, but
Yes.
that specifically, their fruit was the best fruit I've ever had in my entire life.
Yes, it really was. It was like everything was picked when, like, instead of picking it before it peaked, it was picked at the peak.
Yes.
So it
And
wasn't that sour taste.
the
Everything was so
bacon,
sweet.
I've
Hmm.
never, I'm not a huge bacon. I think I'm the only American that just doesn't care about bacon. But the bacon
Yeah.
there, I don't know. It felt like they slaughtered that pig yesterday and made like it was the best bacon I've ever had.
So Derek's thing was that if you remember the Loco Moco, he had that every
Yes.
morning for breakfast. Um, and they served it everywhere we went, and it was, I don't know, some kind of like hamburger steak over
Yes.
eggs with rice, and then it was a mushroom gravy over it.
Hmm.
He thought that was fantastic. I was a little grossed out by it. It did taste good, but it's just it was very heavy to me, like to eat for breakfast.
It was. And I remember trying that day we did the character breakfast. I tried it because I was like, that is so random. Like
Hmm.
I've never
Hmm.
had hamburger at breakfast. That was
So
just so weird to me. But
So
it was
that was
good.
Derek's thing. Yeah, that was Derek's thing of he became like a connoisseur of that. Mine was the macaroni salad, if you remember. Everywhere
Yes.
we went, I was getting the macaroni salad. Shelby's
My
mom, Jennifer, was the spam,
yeah.
and she was
She
obsessed with
Yes. She had to go get the spam biscuit from McDonald's because
it.
everybody told her like their McDonald's there doesn't serve what ours. I mean, it did serve what we have, but they had
Hmm.
a spam biscuit and that she got that on the very first morning. And my thing was the Portuguese sausage. I kept seeing tons and tons of people talk about that and I ordered it. Everywhere we went, I got it and it was really, really good.
Yeah. Their food just to me was, I've had people that have tried to, like, what would you compare it to? But I don't really know. It wasn't completely Asian, like of what you would think of Asian food, but I don't know. It was just their own style, and it was really
Hmm.
good. I was very impressed. Um, so I should have said that we went to bed that night, I think it was around 7, and me and Derek were got up at 4:30. Now, even at home, sometimes me and Derek get up at 4:30, so that
Hmm.
wasn't really that bad for us. The kids, we had to wake them up to go to breakfast. And I think our breakfast was at 7, right?
We got the first one of the day.
Yeah. And they went to bed when we went to bed. Like I said, I think it was between 7 and 7:30, and we had to wake them up. So they had we had no issues moving over to the time change. None.
Mm-mm. None,
None of us did.
none on the way there. Now, on the way home, which that'll be probably one of the other episodes, that's
Yeah,
a
that was
different
rough.
story. When you come back
Yeah,
home, it's hard, but going there,
it
it's
is.
fine. But I think
Yes,
coming home from vacation is hard anyways. That just
it
made it
is.
worse.
It is because we were tired because it was a very go, go, go. We should also throw out the disclaimer that we planned this trip as a once in a lifetime trip.
Yes, and I did want to say I wanted to add that at the beginning and I forgot. We treated this trip like a once in a lifetime trip. Jordan had already been to Hawaii, but like I said, it had been like 15 years. So that was my thoughts. We're going, but we may not ever go back, or we may not go back until Taylor is a full-grown adult. I mean, it might be forever. So we splurged heavily on this trip. We spent more money than if I would have known how much we loved it and would go back so soon, I wouldn't have spent as much as I did. But like she said, we treated it like a once in a lifetime trip because that to us that's what it was gonna be until we got there.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I think probably like by day two, we were like, okay, the next time we come back, this is what we're gonna
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
And it
Oh,
didn't
I knew
take
from the
long.
moment. No, from the moment I walked in the doors, I was like, "This is
Yeah.
happening. This is happening again." Now, I should say that I paid with my room through DVC. You can rent DVC points. You would have to message either one of us about
Mhm.
that. We're not going to go into how you can do that, but you can do that.
Yes.
Or you can just look for a discount
Hmm.
because the rooms are astronomically high there. But Shelby got a pretty good discount on it.
I did end up, I got a discount. So I booked mine just straight through the Disney website. Um, well, I mean, I booked it as a travel agent for myself, but I had zero, I didn't use a travel agent discount or anything. Like it was rack rate. But they had a promo. I want to say it was like 30% off if you stayed more than 5 nights, and we were there for 9 nights. So I had that promo, and then they gave me a gift card when we got there too. I don't remember how many
Hmm.
hundred, I want to say it was maybe $500 that I got
Hmm.
on a gift
Yeah,
card.
it was a pretty good deal.
So there definitely are deals when you're like Alani. I feel like they run deals pretty frequently. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, you can also rent DVC points, which now we are DVC owners. So when we go back, we'll just use our timeshare. I guess I should say
Hmm.
DVC is Disney Vacation Club. Derek and Stephanie were already members, and when we went to Alani, that's when Jordan finally was like, "Okay, we're doing this," because what we spent for our trip to Hawaii, like knowing that we wouldn't have to spend that again for the hotel portion, that was enough for him because he could tell that I was gonna beg him to go back. He knew. So
Yeah.
for
Yeah, Derek
future
spent the entire
trips,
time though trying to convince Jordan, like, yeah, this is what you should do. And
yeah.
but it's probably by like the third day, Jordan's like, yeah, we probably should just buy it
Hmm.
because we were like, think about we can come back together.
Hmm. And so that our trip was in May, and we actually like signed papers and bought our DVC in July. So it didn't take long after we came home. The more we talked about it and crunched numbers, like, okay, we're doing this. It's gonna work. So, which that's a whole other episode. We can talk DVC another day.
Yeah.
Um,
The
but
one thing that I wanted to say was that um another first impression that I had of Alani was the way that the pools are set up are so close to the beach, but you will be shocked at how much your kids want to spend in the pools when the beach is right there.
hmm
The beach is nice.
hmm
I can't describe how nice it is. I would put that beach up to Castaway as far as I don't know that I would say it's better than Castaway, but I would say you feel safe with your kid being in there. The way that it's made, it kind of comes in, I don't know, how would you describe that? In a circle, and so it's kind of blocking off a lot of those high waves.
yeah, they had it's kind of inland. Like they had there was like a I don't like almost a rock wall that had
Yes.
been formed. I don't know if they did it or if that's just how it was formed, but because of those rocks were catching the big waves. And I mean, there
Hmm.
were waves that were coming up. So it definitely, I mean, there were waves there, but it wasn't like these massive, like, I'm going to go get my boogie board to go surfing
Hmm.
on the. I mean, I think
Hmm.
Harper and Taylor did end up getting one of those little boogie board things, but
Yeah, they did.
I don't think it was very effective.
No, no, no. But those kids, they wanted to stay in the what do you call that? The lazy river.
Yeah.
Taylor and Jordan and Harper,
Mhm.
they were they were in there all day at times.
So there
So,
is a large kid area there, like with the splash pad type thing with the slides and that we did not know until we got there. It was going to be closed for refurbishment. I think they had 1 day, maybe two
yeah,
days to
just
play on
one. It
that,
was only
and then
one. Yeah.
it closed down. And so that I do think that that's probably why they did spend so much time in the lazy river and those other pools because the kid splash zone thing was closed, and that was really sad.
Yeah. But if you have a view that is on the backside of the resort, most of those views are of the pool, it seemed like.
Hmm.
if you're going to be looking towards the I don't know what you call that, but like the courtyard that's in that area
Hmm.
of the what'd you call that? The backside, I guess, of the resort.
Yeah.
Um,
It's almost
but
like
it
a
would
U shape. It's like a U
yes.
shape, and in the center of the U is where all the pools, the lazy river, the kid area, a couple of
Hmm.
restaurants, and then like the top of the U is where the beach is. The beach like runs straight across the top, and then the resort itself is in that U shape.
Yeah. But what I was going to say is they did a really good job of making the pool area really pretty. So it's like pretty to look at if that is
Hmm.
your view. Because I think that's the view that we had was of the pool. But it's
Yeah.
very like a lot of trees, a lot of greenery, a lot of tropical plants. So it doesn't feel like you're just looking at some, just pool that's sitting there. It was
Hmm.
really, really nice. We really did like it.
I think, I mean, everybody's money means something different to them, but knowing what I paid to get there, it was so worth the money to me, which again, that was supposed to be like a once in a lifetime trip for us. So we saved and saved and saved for a long time because we knew that that was coming. So
Yes.
I do not regret spending the money that I spent at all because we couldn't, I mean, if we didn't want to, we didn't have to leave that resort at all. There was plenty
No,
to do there in itself. And we'll
no,
have other episodes on things that we did on our trip, but we didn't have to. We could have stayed
no.
at that resort and got the best bang for our buck that way. Um, but we were acting like we weren't ever going to come back, so we did all the things. But
Okay, so before we end it, let's just say, well, because it is does have to do with Alani. So the one thing that we did splurge on was we did the luau that's there.
yes.
And it gets a lot of mixed reviews if you look at the reviews, but
Hmm.
we all loved that
Hmm.
luau. I thought it was great. A lot of people said it was very, what did they call it, like Disney-fied, or
Hmm.
I can't remember the exact term that they came up with, but the Kahlua pork was awesome.
Yes. I still think
Um,
about that to this day.
they had just I thought the food was good. I think if you go in with like horrible expectations, even though you've paid a lot of money,
Hmm.
you could be pleasantly surprised. So we will say, like she said, we saved and we paid as far in advance as we could for anything that we knew
Hmm.
we could pay for in advance. As soon as it was able to book, we booked it so it would be paid for and we wouldn't
Yes.
have to dump all that money at one time.
And we ask, which we do this anyways, our moms both like Christmases or birthdays, we usually get money or Disney. I even tell them like just do Disney gift cards because if we don't have a Disney trip booked, like we're going to, or
Hmm.
so we even had like Disney gift cards that we could use, and you could use that at Alani. We use some
Yes.
on food, we use some on souvenirs, and then I think I even paid the balance when we got there with a Disney gift
Hmm.
card.
Yes. So I would I would say that if you wanted the convenience like we did, if you have a bunch of children and you don't feel like loading them all up in the car, driving over to a
Mhm.
luau, I I would do it again.
Oh, I absolutely would. The food was amazing. That even Jordan, being picky eater, he enjoyed it. The show, so the show did have some of the Disney characters. I think Mickey and Minnie came out, but it was not about Disney. It was about the story of whatever that guy's name was. Like,
I don't remember. Another thing that we should say is if you have teenagers, they will pick out what they are going to call their quote husband of the show.
yeah,
Do you remember that?
yep, I do.
Yeah, and I don't know if we should tell the Derek story. Remember when he got his quote tattoo there? Because they have these little like stations when you
Mhm.
come for the luau. It was I don't what was the other one? You were making something, but what was the name of that?
I don't remember. So they have, like she said, little stations where there's like entertainment. Maybe you get in an hour before the luau starts. So they had one where you could make your own lei. They had like a ukulele lesson where you could try to
Hmm.
learn how to play that. You were making some kind of paste stuff. I don't know what
Yes.
that was.
Yes.
Um, And then they
That's
had
where
like
Sophia had the magical moment with her husband, apparently.
yes, yes. And then they had a station for like the Hawaiian tattoos, which it was just like a stamp on a pad of ink. I mean, it was
Uh-huh.
nothing great.
Yeah.
But so we're all giving them, our wrist, our arms. Well, Derek turns around and pulls his shirt up like for his back. And that guy looked at him. His
Say
face
it
was,
wasn't like it wasn't like he pulled it all the way up, but he just like pulled it just like basically what he called a tramp stamp and just
yes.
pulled it up like right above his pants and was like, "Yeah, just go ahead right here." And I think the man thought that Derek was kidding.
I think
He was
he
not.
thought that Derek was drunk because alcohol is included in the luau, but none of us drink. And I think that maybe Jordan, I don't remember, maybe Jordan or my mom one made the comment like, and he's not even drunk. Like this is just him.
Yeah, no, that was me that said that. I was like,
Okay.
I turned to the man, like after he got done, I said, and just think he is completely sober. So imagine what he'd be like if he was drunk. And I
Yeah.
think that's when he started to realize, like, oh, he's not drunk. And this is just like he's just being funny, but it was hilarious.
It was hilarious. That was a very good memory. But anyways, so I think that we'll end this here. As far
Hmm.
as because we have talked a lot about Alani, and I think that we will definitely have more to say. But this was basically like us getting there. Now the luau was more towards the end of our trip, but we talked about first impressions of the island itself and then the resort, and
Hmm.
so I think that we'll cut it. So what was your high point and low point for like the travel side of it? Like getting there.
I would say that I felt like the high point was definitely when you are when you're coming in on the plane and you can see the island and the water is so blue around there.
Hmm.
I don't know if you saw it. Did you see it when you were coming in?
It was like cloudy, rainy when we came in, so it wasn't as magical.
Yes, so you can see the mountains,
Hmm.
you can see the entire island, and it's really not that big when you're up on that plane. You're
No.
thinking, wow, that's really small. Um, that was probably the high point. The low point, um, was probably Mateo screaming before takeoff because he didn't want to sit in the car seat. He was being a little brat. That was probably the low point. But really, overall, as we've had a whole lot of things go wrong on a trip, a whole lot.
Hmm.
And we felt like our travel day was great that
Hmm.
day, aside from his little tantrum.
But that's to be expected with a 2 year
It
old.
is. It is. It is. We went into it with very low expectations, especially being on a 6 hour flight.
Hmm.
But no, I really thought he did really, really good. All the kids did great. I just couldn't sleep on the flight. If I would have slept, I probably would have stayed up later even. But
Hmm.
I was ready to go to bed.
So my high point was as far as traveling, I think it was just the flight being as easy as it was. Taylor did so good. I was very worried. We brought her iPad. She watched shows. She slept. She ate snacks. I mean, like I said, she was 5 at that time, but she did so good. It was not, I mean, I think she does worse when we drive to Orlando for, being in the car. I think being on the plane was different. She did so good. So that was my high point because, like you, I went in with very low expectations and she did awesome. So that was definitely my high point, was just like surviving that 12 plus hour travel day with no meltdowns. No, I mean, it was great. Um, my low point was driving through the city, going to the hotel and thinking we have
And
wasted.
feeling like she's ruined her entire life has been a lie that
Yeah,
she
I'm
thought Hawaii
like,
was great.
no, like, what have I done? I've drug all these people here. They're here for my birthday, and where are we? Like, what are we doing? But I mean,
Well,
that was a low point for just a minute because then once
yeah.
I got where I was going, I was like, okay, never mind. But I just want to put
Well,
that out there for anybody that might have the same feeling that I did.
I just want to say that we both, I mean, she talked about it and I talked about it. We had a lot of anxiety about that travel day. We had a lot of anxiety about I guess just being so far away from home.
Hmm.
And that was our first like really long trip on a plane for me and Derek and for them.
Yeah.
But I think if you just go into it with really realistic, low expectations, if you're
Hmm.
traveling with kids, you'll be surprised at how excited that they are, that it seems a lot more doable, I guess is the word.
Yes.
Um, because like she said, Taylor did great, my kids did great. I would definitely do it again.
Well, we are so good.
And I can't wait until we get to the next part where we talk about when we came into the North Fork for the first time.
Oh my goodness, yes. We're not going to give any spoilers though. You'll have to
No,
stay
no,
tuned for next week for that.
no, but it was amazing.
All right. Well, I think that's a wrap. Thank you so much for listening if you've made it this far. Appreciate it. Hi, Mom.
Yeah, right.
Probably the only one still here at this point.
And that one lone person from Mexico and those four people from Japan.
Yep.
May your flights be on time and your luggage never lost. But if it's not, that's where the fun begins.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Pack your dreams, grab your bag. Adventures call, let's zig and zag. From castles tall to ocean waves, magic made for wanderers brave. Theme parks light up the night, starry-eyed in sheer delight. Board the ships set sail and see endless tales and fantasy. Chaos and carry-ons, let's go. Disney dreams in tow, you know. Every flight and every ride, join the journey, come inside. From Mickey ears to Dole Whip tree, pixie dust beneath our feet. Through the lands and sea we roam, feel the wonder, feel at home. From rope drop to the fireworks show, lose yourself in the joyful glow. Cruising waters, feeling free, every twist's a memory. Chaos and carry-ons, let's go. Disney dreams in tow, you know. Every flight and every ride, join the journey, come inside.